You might not believe this, but there is a country that once grew almost as rich as the United States just by selling bird droppings, a country where fake dollars flow like water, where human-shaped coffins hang on cliffs, where a river boils anything that touches it, and where the capital city has gone hundreds of years without real rain. That country is Peru. Peru sits on the western edge of South America, stretching from the dry Pacific coast to the icy Andes and deep into the Amazon. Its land area is as large as Alaska and Texas combined. Yet only about 33 million people live here, and the climate shifts from desert heat to snowfields to rainforest storms in just a few hours of travel. There was a time when Peru nearly matched American income. Now it ranks among the most politically unstable countries on Earth, and that contrast alone makes it one of the most intriguing places a traveler can explore. This is the land of the Inca, of the Nazca Lines seen only from the sky, of strange mummies, toxic gold towns, lucky yellow underwear, and dishes you will never forget. In this video, we will dive into ancient glory, modern chaos, and everything in between to discover whether Peru is a traveler's paradise or a world you never knew could exist. The Inca Empire, rise and a 1-hour fall. Before the Spanish ever arrived, Peru was the heart of the biggest empire in the New World, and shockingly, it took barely one single hour of battle for that empire to collapse. The Inca rose in the 13th century and grew into a powerhouse that covered nearly 2 million square kilometers, home to around 12 million people, more than 80 ethnic groups, and roughly 20 languages. The most impressive part is that they managed all of this without a written script. Yet they built a road network of about 24,000 kilometers that cut across deserts, valleys, and snow-capped mountains with astonishing precision. Their Temple of the Sun was covered in 700 sheets of gold weighing more than 2 tons, a glittering symbol of wealth and divine power. If Europe today is a web of highways, then the Inca Empire was the ancient world's version of Google Maps, a place where organization and engineering were so advanced that it feels almost unreal. But even the greatest systems can fall to a single moment of miscalculation. Atahualpa, the Inca emperor, believed his army of 80,000 soldiers made him untouchable, so he accepted what he thought was a friendly diplomatic meeting with 168 Spanish soldiers, and he went unarmed. What followed was a massacre that lasted only about 1 hour, leaving around 7,000 Inca soldiers dead. Even after Atahualpa offered a room filled with gold and silver to save his life, he still could not escape execution. What do you think happened here? Was this political innocence? Or did the Inca simply never imagine the devastating power of European guns? When Peru grew as rich as America thanks to bird droppings, there was a time when the entire Peruvian economy soared because of something you would never want on your clothes: bird droppings. In the 19th century, dried guano became the white gold of global agriculture, packed with nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. It was one of the most valuable fertilizers on Earth. Peru controlled some of the richest guano deposits in the world, earning the equivalent of about $500 million a year, and roughly 70% of the national budget came from this unlikely treasure. At its peak, Peru's average income climbed above $2,200, only a few $100s below that of the United States, placing the country nearly side by side with American prosperity. If modern nations rise on oil, then Peru once rose on bird droppings, and for a while, that unusual resource turned the country into the aristocrat of South America. But every boom ends, and when the guano reserves began to collapse, Peru scrambled to find a new lifeline. The Atacama Desert, shared with Chile and Bolivia, held enormous deposits of nitrate and guano. The competition for those resources pushed the region into the Pacific War. Peru lost the war, lost about a quarter of its territory, watched its GDP fall by almost 70%, and sank into debt that exceeded 150% of the national budget. A country that once felt untouchable suddenly found itself bankrupt and broken. What do you think about this? Is it shocking that the fate of an entire nation rose to glory and crashed to disaster all because they ran out of bird droppings? Political chaos, heroes, strongmen, and 7 presidents in a few years. There is a country where people often cannot remember who their current president is. And yes, that country is Peru. In the early 1990s, Peru was drowning in hyperinflation that reached about 7,500%, while the Shining Path terrorist group terrorized cities and villages. Out of nowhere, Alberto Fujimori, a quiet university professor of Japanese descent, won the presidency, surprising the entire nation. In just 3 years, he dragged inflation down to around 10%, pushed GDP up by about 13%, and captured the leader of the Shining Path. People called him the emergency doctor of a nation on the edge of respiratory failure, a man who arrived at the last minute to keep the country from collapsing. But every miracle has a price. Fujimori dissolved Congress, ruled with an iron grip, and was later exposed for corruption involving hundreds of millions of dollars, a downfall that led to a 25-year prison sentence. After him, Peru never found stable leadership again. Since 2016, 7 different presidents have risen and fallen. Protests have left more than 60 people dead, and only about 9% of Peruvians say they still trust Congress. One of the most striking examples was Pedro Castillo, a rural primary school teacher with almost no experience in economics or governance, who won the presidency simply because he appeared humble and close to the poor, only to attempt dissolving Congress himself and fall from power just a year later. What do you think? Is choosing leaders based on emotion the biggest mistake Peruvian voters have made? Or is it simply the result of a nation that has lost all trust in its traditional political class? La Rinconada, a golden town built on the edge of hell. There is a town sitting nearly 5,200 meters above sea level, a place where people mine gold in clouds of mercury, where the average life expectancy barely reaches 35 years, and yet the population keeps growing. That place is La Rinconada. La Rinconada is considered the highest permanent settlement on Earth, home to about 50,000 people living in cramped tin shacks, without proper heating, sewage systems, or waste collection. Food costs nearly 3 times more than in the lowlands, and the town did not have reliable electricity or running water until the early 2000s. Every day, miners walk for about 30 minutes into tunnels filled with toxic gases, mercury, cyanide, and almost no oxygen. Many return coughing or dizzy, but still go back the next day, because gold is the only way to survive. Outside the mines, women known as palireras wait for trucks to dump waste rock, scrambling to pick through the piles in hopes of finding even the tiniest trace of gold. The environment around the town has paid a terrible price. Meltwater from glaciers and streams is contaminated with mercury that slowly enters people's bodies, damaging the nervous system, the heart, the liver, the lungs, and the skin. Almost all children in the area have lead levels far above safe limits, and illnesses that should be rare are simply a part of life here. If it were you, would you be willing to trade the health and lifespan of your entire family for the small chance of touching a few grains of gold? The counterfeit dollar capital of the world. When you hold a dollar bill in the United States or Europe, there is a surprising chance, nearly 60%, that the fake version of it was created in Peru. For years, Peru has been the world's largest source of counterfeit American currency. Criminal groups here produce between $15 and $20 million in fake bills every year, most of which are smuggled into North America and Europe. While many countries compete to export coffee or cacao, Peru has unintentionally become famous for exporting something far more unusual: counterfeit dollars. The skill behind this underground industry comes from former printers and technicians who once worked in Peru's respected printing houses during their golden era. When the industry declined, many of these experts were recruited by criminal networks. As a result, the fake bills they produce are shockingly convincing, complete with watermarks, security threads, and light effects that can fool even bank machines. Detecting them often requires microscopes or specialized optical tools. The situation became so serious that the United States set up a permanent Secret Service unit in Lima to work closely with local authorities, shutting down operations and training teams to spot the most sophisticated forgeries. Have you ever wondered whether a dollar bill in your wallet might have started its life in a hidden printing room somewhere in Lima? Nazca Lines and strange mummies, a possible homeland of aliens, giant drawings that only make sense from the sky, and mummies with long skulls and 3 fingers. It sounds like a sci-fi movie, but in Peru it is very real. On the Nazca Plateau, More than 700 massive geoglyphs stretch across roughly 50 square kilometers, with a combined length of about 1,300 kilometers. They include animals, plants, geometric shapes, and perfectly straight lines that can only be seen clearly from above. In 2024, artificial intelligence helped researchers identify more than 300 additional figures, proving that this desert still holds secrets we have not fully uncovered. Theories about their purpose are everywhere. Some believe the lines were created for religious rituals. Others say they were used for astronomy, agricultural calendars, or even markers showing wind directions and water sources. And then there is the bold idea that they were runways for alien spacecraft, a claim that is far from proven but impossible to ignore because of how surreal the site feels. The mysteries do not end there. In the surrounding region, researchers discovered strange mummies dating back around 1,200 years. These bodies have elongated skulls and limbs with only 3 fingers, and forensic tests show that they are organic beings, not glued-together fabrications. Some even appear to have died from violent injuries. So what do you think? Do these clues point to the possibility that non-human visitors once came here? Or are we simply letting our imagination run wild in front of an ancient legacy we still do not fully understand? Human-shaped coffins and the people of the clouds. Imagine hiking through the mountains and suddenly spotting human-shaped coffins hanging from a cliff, some of them topped with real human skulls. That surreal sight is a reality in Karagia. Near the town of Chachapoyas, the Karagia burial site holds a row of towering sarcophagi made from clay mixed with straw, each standing about 2.5 meters tall. They cling to cliff faces more than 2,000 meters above the ground, painted in deep reds and yellows, and many are crowned with actual skulls. Inside, the bodies rest in a fetal position, preserved like silent guardians watching the valley below. These coffins belong to the Chachapoya people, often called the people of the clouds, because they lived in high mountain regions wrapped in mist. Their women were famously beautiful, so much so that the Inca were known to capture and marry them. The Chachapoya resisted fiercely, holding onto their identity even as empires rose and fell around them. What continues to puzzle archaeologists is how these ancient people managed to place such heavy coffins on sheer cliffs without modern tools. No cranes, no cables, no machinery, just determination and methods that have never been fully explained. What do you think? Was this the work of a lost construction technique, or was it a spiritual devotion so powerful that it pushed people to attempt the nearly impossible? Strange daily life and culture, yellow underwear, a rainless capital, and a museum of ancient erotica. In Peru, people give yellow underwear as a New Year's gift for good luck. They might call you fat or short as a friendly nickname, and the capital city has gone centuries without real rain. It is a culture full of surprises. Every New Year, Peruvians buy and gift bright yellow underwear because they believe the color brings luck, love, and prosperity for the coming year. Walk through the markets in late December and you will see entire walls covered in nothing but yellow fabric. Then there is Lima, a capital city so dry that it receives only about 10 to 15 millimeters of rainfall in an entire year, less than some parts of the Sahara. What people call rain here is mostly just heavy coastal fog, and many locals grow up without ever seeing a true downpour. Peru is also one of the few countries where adult sex work is legal as long as the person is over 18, registered, and has a valid health certificate. The topic is surprisingly open in Peruvian culture, so open that the Larco Museum in Lima displays the world's largest collection of ancient erotic pottery, complete with entire rooms dedicated to themes that would shock many visitors. Daily conversations can feel equally surprising. Instead of using sweet nicknames, Peruvians often express affection by calling friends names like fat, short, or black, not as insults, but as a way to sound warm and familiar. It is a cultural habit that often confuses travelers from the United States and Europe who assume they are being mocked. If a Peruvian called you fat but did it with a big smile, would you feel offended, or would you take it as a sign that you have just been welcomed into the inner circle? Peruvian women and love. Beautiful, practical, and deeply genuine. Many Peruvian women dream of marrying a Western man for a more stable future. But what keeps a man in their life long term is not money, it is the feeling of safety, affection, and respect. Peruvian beauty is the result of a unique blend of cultures, a mix of indigenous Quechua and Aymara roots with Spanish features, plus traces of Chinese and Japanese ancestry. The result is a look that is hard to mistake: bright skin, soft wavy black hair, warm brown eyes, and curves that feel naturally elegant. Culturally, Peru is quite open when it comes to intimacy, yet surprisingly traditional when it comes to commitment. Many women begin thinking about marriage after 1 or 2 years of dating, but before that moment they pay close attention to the little things: whether you are responsible, whether you keep your promises, how you treat your family, your friends, and even strangers. It is true that some women are drawn to Western partners for economic stability, but money alone is not enough to build a lasting relationship here. What matters far more is genuine affection, loyalty, and the way you make them feel emotionally secure. Without those things, even the most attractive foreigner will not last long. And yes, Peruvians love to joke about ceviche as a love booster. They say if a man compliments his partner right after eating ceviche, she might already be thinking about baby names. If you ever visit Peru, what do you think will matter most to the women you meet? Your looks, your wallet, or the way you treat the people around you? Magical landscapes and iconic destinations, from Machu Picchu to the Rainbow Mountain. Would you dare visit a place where one wrong step into a river could cook you instantly, and then the next day climb a mountain colored like a 12-shade pencil set? That place exists, and it is Peru. Start with Machu Picchu, the legendary stone city of the Inca, built without a single drop of mortar, yet still standing strong after centuries of rain, mist, and earthquakes. Walk through its terraces in the early morning when the clouds drift low, and it feels like stepping into another era. Travel southeast, and you will reach Lake Titicaca, the highest navigable lake in the world, where the Uros people live on floating islands made entirely of reeds. It is a quiet, shimmering place where life moves at a peaceful rhythm shaped by water and sky. Cross into the desert and Huacachina rises like a mirage, a tiny emerald lake surrounded by golden dunes. Locals say the lake was formed from the tears of a princess, and today it is a playground for sandboarding, dune buggies, and sunsets that set the sky on fire. Further into the Andes lies the Colca Valley, one of the deepest valleys on Earth. Here, enormous Andean condors glide over green terraces and snow-capped cliffs, a sight so majestic that many travelers say it feels like nature's version of a cathedral. And then comes the wildest twist of all: the Chêne Timpishka, a river heated by Earth's hidden energy, reaching temperatures near 100 degrees Celsius, hot enough to kill and cook any creature that falls in. Finally, there is Vinicunca, the Rainbow Mountain, layered with minerals that paint its slopes in red, yellow, green, and lavender. For centuries it was hidden under ice, but as the glaciers retreated, its colors slowly emerged, turning it into one of Peru's most astonishing natural wonders. In Peru, you can wake up in a cloud forest, slide down desert dunes by afternoon, and stand on a rainbow-colored summit the next morning. If you could choose only one place to visit, would you pick the stone city in the clouds, the sacred lake, the desert oasis, or the rainbow mountain that is as beautiful as it is unforgiving? Peruvian cuisine, beautiful, bold, and a little bit wild. In Peru, you can eat fish cooked only with lime juice, bite into a whole roasted guinea pig, and finish your meal with a smoky, buttery grub pulled straight from the Amazon. This is a country where food is not just delicious, it is an adventure. Start with ceviche, Peru's national pride. Fresh fish is soaked in lime juice, chili, red onion, and cilantro. There is no fire involved. The acidity of the lime naturally cooks the fish, leaving it bright, tender, and full of ocean flavor. Then there is cuy, the famous roasted guinea pig. Served whole, crispy outside and tender inside, it has been a symbol of prosperity in the Andes for centuries. It appears in festivals, family gatherings, and for many visitors it delivers a small shock before delivering surprisingly good flavor. Next comes lomo saltado, a stir-fry that feels both familiar and exotic. Beef, onions, tomatoes, fries, and soy sauce come together in a sizzling mix that blends Chinese techniques with Peruvian ingredients, a dish born from centuries of cultural crossroads. Deep in the Amazon, you find suri, the chubby larvae of the palm weevil. Locals consider it a powerhouse of nutrition. You can eat it raw or grilled over charcoal until the outside crackles and the inside turns rich and creamy. And for comfort food, there is ají de gallina, shredded chicken simmered in a yellow chili sauce mixed with milk, bread, and walnuts, a warm and silky dish often enjoyed at family tables. Peruvian cuisine is a map of its history, indigenous traditions, Spanish influence, Chinese and Japanese immigration, all meeting on the same plate. It is bold, surprising, and deeply memorable. So, if you sat down at a Peruvian table, which would you try first? The fresh and bright ceviche, or the daring cuy and suri waiting to test your courage? Living in Peru, cost of life, and survival tips for travelers. It may sound far away and exotic, but with around $650 to $850 a month, you can live quite comfortably in Peru, as long as you know how to avoid scams and altitude sickness. Housing in major cities like Lima or Cusco can cost between $450 and $600 a month in central areas, or around $250 to $350 if you choose the suburbs. Transportation is affordable. A bus ride is usually between 40 and 80 cents. Taxis or ride-hailing apps cost about $2 to $3 for short trips, and renting a car runs around $30 to $40 a day. Food is also manageable. Cooking at home typically costs about $120 to $170 a month. Eating out ranges from $2.50 for a simple local meal to about $12 at a mid-range restaurant. Add everything up, and a single person can live comfortably with $650 to $850 a month. Living frugally is possible at about $500, and if you want a more relaxed lifestyle with frequent trips and treats, a bit over $1,000 will do. To stay safe and healthy, always use trusted taxi apps, confirm prices before accepting a service, and avoid paying with large bills. Be cautious with street food, stick to bottled water, and skip the ice unless you know it is filtered, and be very careful with altitude. Places like Cusco in the Andes can leave you dizzy or nauseous in the first 24 hours. Rest, drink plenty of water, sip coca tea, and never push yourself to hike if you feel lightheaded. With that budget and a little preparation, do you think you would spend a month or two living in Peru, working online by day, and exploring the country by night and weekend? Peru is the kind of place where in a single day you can touch the stone walls of an empire that collapsed to 168 Spanish soldiers, watch Andean condors glide above a valley, hear stories about aliens, walk past hidden rooms where fake dollars once flowed, and still end the night with a plate of ceviche next to a Peruvian friend calling you fat in the warmest way possible. It is mysterious and chaotic, poor in some ways yet unbelievably rich in culture, a country that stays with you long after you leave, the kind of destination you cannot forget once you have seen it. Among everything we explored today, which part shocked you or fascinated you the most? Drop a number in the comments and tell me which one you want me to dive deeper into for the next video. And speaking of next videos, should we explore another South American neighbor like Chile or Bolivia, or take a sharp turn and compare Peru to a country in Asia or Africa? Let me know what you prefer. If you enjoyed today's journey, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next adventure into places you never knew existed on this earth.